Hey, thanks for being here. If this story gets under your skin, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what you're doing right now. Working, walking, trying to fall asleep? I want to know. Here's what you need to know up front. I'm not crazy. I'm not paranoid. And I'm not making this up. What I'm about to tell you happened, is still happening. And if I don't get this out now, no one will ever know the truth. This is about a plant that shouldn't exist, an angel that shouldn't be walking this earth, and the choice I made that destroyed everything I loved. Now let's get into it. The coffee tasted wrong. Not spoiled, not bitter, just wrong. Like the beans had been grown in soil that had forgotten what sunlight felt like. I held the cup between both hands, letting the heat press into my palms, and watched David across the table. He'd invited me to this diner, said he needed to talk, said it was important but he'd barely touched his eggs. His eyes kept drifting to the window, then back to me, then to the window again. "You look tired," he said finally. "Always do?" "No, I mean really tired, like you haven't slept in weeks." I had slept. Poorly, but I'd slept. The problem wasn't exhaustion. It was the dreams. The same dream, actually, repeating like a skip in a record. A figure made of light standing at the foot of my bed, watching, waiting, never speaking, never moving closer, just watching. "I sleep enough," I said. David's fork scraped against the plate. The sound set my teeth on edge. He wasn't eating, just pushing food around, creating patterns in the grease. His wedding ring caught the overhead fluorescent light, clicked against the ceramic with each pass of the fork. Click, scrape, click, scrape. "I had a dream about you," he said. My grip tightened on the cup. "Yeah? Yeah. You were standing in a field, just standing there. And there was this man behind you, made of light, and he was telling me." David trailed off. His eyes finally met mine. They looked glassy, distant. "He was telling me that you were hiding something dangerous, something that could hurt people if you kept it to yourself." The diner felt too warm suddenly, too bright. The smell of frying bacon turned thick and cloying in my throat. "Who was he?" I asked carefully. "I don't know, but he felt familiar, like I'd known him my whole life." David leaned forward. The fork clattered onto the plate. "He said you needed help, that you were carrying a burden too heavy for one person, that if you'd just let go, if you'd just trust the right people, everything would be easier." Every word landed like a stone in my gut. I knew that voice. Not David's voice. The other one. The one speaking through the dream. The one that had been circling me for months now, getting closer, tightening the noose inch by inch. Marakiel. "Did he tell you what I was hiding?" I asked. "No, but he didn't have to." David's hand reached across the table, fingers stretching toward mine. "I know you, man. We've been friends for 15 years. I know when you're hurting. I know when you're scared. And I know when you're keeping secrets that are eating you alive." His hand was an inch from mine. I pulled back. "I appreciate the concern," I said, keeping my voice level. "But I'm fine. You're not fine. You haven't been fine since your brother died." The words hit like a fist. I stood up so fast my chair scraped backward across the linoleum. A few heads turned. I didn't care. "I need to go." "Wait. Thanks for the coffee." I left a 20 on the table and walked out. The November air hit me like cold water, sharp and clean, cutting through the greasy warmth of the diner. My truck was parked 3 spaces down. I could feel David watching me through the window, his reflection distorted in the glass. He called my name. I didn't turn around. My house sits 40 minutes outside of Asheville, tucked into the side of a mountain where the pines grow so thick the ground stays dark even at noon. No neighbors within 2 miles. No cell service unless you drive to the ridge. No reason for anyone to come up here unless they know exactly where they're going. I'd bought the place 12 years ago with money I'd made selling a single vial of extract to a private collector in Prague. Lunar blessed thistle, harvested from a monastery ruin in the Carpathians during a full moon. The kind of plant that makes vampires sluggish, slows their regeneration, turns their supernatural speed into something almost human. The collector paid $50,000 for 3 ounces. I'd used the money to disappear. The greenhouse was built into the back of the property, half buried into the hillside to maintain consistent temperature. Triple-paned glass. Climate control. Grow lights that mimicked specific wavelengths of sunlight, found only in places humans weren't meant to survive. This was where I kept the 3 remaining specimens of Arcanthus obscurantis, the forgotten root. I unlocked the greenhouse and stepped inside. The air was humid, rich with the smell of dark soil and something older. Something metallic and electric, like the air before a lightning strike. The rows of plants stretched before me, wolfsbane variants, devil's snare hybrids, moonshade fern, black hellebore crosses I'd cultivated over decades. But in the back corner, behind a false wall of grow shelves, was the real collection, the forbidden one. I moved the shelves aside and entered the hidden chamber. It was small, maybe 8 feet by 8 feet, lit only by a single ultraviolet lamp that cast everything in shades of deep purple. The temperature was precisely 62 degrees. The humidity held at 40%. And there, in 3 separate terracotta pots filled with soil I'd carried out of a cave in Greece 8 years ago, were the plants. They didn't look like much. Thin stems, no thicker than wire. Leaves that were almost translucent, veined with black instead of green. No flowers. No scent. Nothing that would make someone think they were looking at the rarest botanical specimen on Earth. Nothing that would suggest these plants could reveal the true form of a fallen angel. I knelt in front of them, checked the soil moisture, examined each leaf under a magnifying glass for signs of blight or decay. They were fragile. So fragile. One had already lost 2 leaves this month. Another had stopped growing entirely. They were dying. And when they died, the last defense against creatures like Mirachiel would die with them. I'd spent years searching for more, traveled to every rumored location where the root might grow. Volcanic caves in Iceland, lightless crevasses in the Andes, forgotten temples in Anatolia. Found nothing, just stories, legends, the faint traces of something that used to exist. These 3 plants were it, the last of their kind, and Mirachiel knew I had them. The first sign that something was deeply wrong came 3 days later. I was at the farmer's market in town, not to sell, just to buy basic supplies and maintain the illusion of normalcy, when I saw Rebecca. She ran the herb stall 2 rows over, sold culinary sage and decorative lavender to tourists who thought they were getting something authentic. We'd been friendly for years. Casual. She knew I grew plants but assumed it was just medicinal herbs and heirloom vegetables. I'd never corrected her. She saw me and smiled, waved me over. "Haven't seen you in a while," she said. "Been busy." "I bet." She leaned against her table, arms crossed. "Actually, I'm glad you're here. I wanted to ask you something." "Sure." "Do you ever feel like you're being watched?" The question hung in the air between us. A cold thread of unease worked its way down my spine. "What do you mean?" "I don't know how to explain it, just lately I keep feeling like there's someone looking over my shoulder, like I'm being observed, judged almost." She laughed, but it sounded forced. "Probably just stress, right?" "Probably." "But then I had this dream." Her voice dropped lower. "There was this man. He was beautiful, like impossibly beautiful. And he was standing in a field of light, and he told me that someone I knew was dangerous, that they were hiding something that could hurt a lot of people if it got into the wrong hands." My blood went cold. "Did he say who?" "No, but when I woke up I kept thinking about you." Her eyes searched mine. "I know that sounds crazy. We barely know each other. But the feeling won't go away. Like I'm supposed to tell you something. Like I'm supposed to warn you." "Warn me about what?" "I don't know." She touched her temple, fingers pressing against her skull, like she was trying to massage out a headache. "It's all fuzzy. But I think I think you need to let go of whatever you're holding on to. I think you need to trust people more. Stop isolating yourself. The same words David had used, almost verbatim. I appreciate the concern, I said slowly. But I'm doing fine. Are you? Her hand dropped to the table. Because you look like you're carrying the weight of the world, and I keep thinking that if you just share that weight, if you just let the right people help you, everything would be so much easier. I stepped back. I need to go. Wait. But I was already walking away, heart hammering against my ribs, hands shaking as I fumbled for my keys. Around me, the market continued its cheerful chaos, people laughing, vendors calling out prices, children running between stalls. But it all felt wrong now. Staged. Like everyone was an actor playing a role and I was the only one who didn't know the script. Over the next 2 weeks, it happened again. And again. And again. My mechanic mentioned a dream about a man made of light. The woman at the post office asked if I was hiding something. A hiker I'd never met stopped me on a trail and said I looked like I was carrying a terrible burden. Each time the words were slightly different, but the message was always the same. Let go. Trust us. Share your secrets. Stop fighting. Up. Miracle was inside their heads. Not controlling them. Not exactly. He was subtler than that. He planted seeds, shaped dreams, bent their perception just enough that they'd think the thoughts were their own, that they were genuinely concerned, genuinely trying to help. And the worst part? They were. These weren't bad people. They weren't evil. They were good, caring, normal human beings who had no idea their minds were being used as weapons. I stopped going into town, stopped answering calls, locked myself in the greenhouse with the plants and tried to figure out what to do. The rosary around my neck, the one containing the fragment of the life plant, burned warm against my skin. As long as I wore it, Miracle couldn't touch my mind directly, couldn't make me see him as light, couldn't fill my dreams with his voice, but he could turn everyone else against me. He could make me the villain in a story where he was the hero, and eventually someone would get desperate enough to try something drastic. That someone was Tyler. He showed up on a Thursday night just after sunset. I heard his truck coming up the mountain road. The engine had a distinctive rattle, something wrong with the timing belt he'd been putting off fixing for months. And I knew immediately that this wasn't a social visit. I met him at the door. He was holding a crowbar. Tyler. I'm sorry, he said. His voice shook. I'm so sorry, but I can't let you keep them anymore. Keep what? Whatever you're hiding. The thing that's hurting you. Hurting all of us. He took a step forward. I know you have it. I know it's in the greenhouse, and I know that if I don't take it, something terrible is going to happen. Tyler, listen to me. No. He raised the crowbar. I've listened enough. We've all listened enough. You're sick. You're paranoid. You're delusional. And someone needs to help you before you hurt yourself. His eyes weren't his own. They had that same glassy distance I'd seen in David's, in Rebecca's, in everyone who'd been touched by Miracle's influence. Put the crowbar down, I said quietly. I can't. Yes, you can. You're stronger than whatever's in your head right now. You're stronger than the dream. It's not a dream. His knuckles went white around the metal. It's the truth. I can feel it. He showed me the truth and I can't unsee it. Who showed you? The man made of light. He's lying to you. He's not lying. He's saving us. He's saving all of us from you. Tyler lunged. I'd been expecting it. I sidestepped, grabbed his arm, used his momentum to throw him off balance. He crashed into the porch railing, wood splintering under the impact. The crowbar clattered to the ground. Stop, I said. Please, just stop. But he was already getting up, face twisted with determination and something else. Something that looked almost like love. Like he genuinely believed he was doing the right thing. I'm trying to help you, he said. Then he charged again. We fought in the dirt and dead leaves, grappling in the darkness while the wind howled through the pines. Tyler was younger, stronger, but I'd spent 30 years crawling through caves and ruins where one wrong move meant death. I knew how to fight when fighting was the only option. I got him in a chokehold, held on until his struggles weakened, until his breathing slowed, until he went limp in my arms. I laid him on the ground and checked his pulse. Still there, still strong. He'd wake up in a few hours with a headache and no clear memory of why he'd come here, but he'd come back, or someone else would. The net was tightening. I dragged Tyler to his truck, positioned him in the passenger seat, left his keys on the dashboard. He'd be fine. Confused, but fine. Then I went back inside and started packing. I spent the night loading supplies into my truck. Camping gear, water purification tablets, climbing equipment, emergency rations. The 3 plants went into a custom-built transport case I designed years ago. Climate-controlled, shock-resistant, powered by a portable battery that could run for 72 hours. By dawn, I was ready to leave. But there was one thing I needed to do first. I drove to the public library in town, used their computer to access archives I'd been researching for years. Archaeological surveys, geological databases, historical records of unexplored cave systems in the Appalachian Range. I'd been looking for this information for 8 years, searching for any place that matched the specific conditions where Arcanthus obscurantis could grow. Absolute darkness, no sound echo, geological markers suggesting ancient meteorite impact. And finally, 3 months ago, I'd found it. A cave system in Western Virginia, discovered during a mining survey in 1987, and immediately sealed due to structural instability. The coordinates were buried in an obscure government report. The location was marked as dangerous, forbidden, but the geological data matched perfectly. If there were any living specimens of the forgotten root left in the world, they'd be there. I printed the coordinates, memorized them, burned the paper in the library parking lot, and started driving. The cave entrance was exactly where the report said it would be. Deep in national forest land, miles from any trail, hidden behind a rockfall that looked natural but had clearly been engineered. Someone had tried very hard to make sure no one ever went inside. I spent 3 hours digging out the entrance. The rocks were loose, unstable, held in place by rotting wooden supports that crumbled when I touched them. By the time I broke through, my hands were bleeding and my back screamed with every movement. The darkness beyond the entrance was absolute. I clicked on my headlamp. The beam cut through the black like a blade, illuminating rough stone walls that glistened with moisture. The air smelled old, stale, like it hadn't been disturbed in centuries. I stepped inside. The temperature dropped immediately, from 60 degrees outside to maybe 45 inside. My breath puffed white in the light. Water dripped somewhere in the distance, each drop echoing strangely like the sound was bouncing off surfaces that shouldn't exist. I was 20 feet in when I heard footsteps behind me. I spun around, hand going to the knife on my belt. A woman stood in the entrance, silhouetted against the fading daylight. I couldn't see her face, but I could see she was alone. Unarmed, wearing hiking gear that looked well used but maintained. "Who are you?" I called out. "Someone who knows what you're looking for." She stepped forward into my headlamp's beam. Mid-40s maybe. Dark hair pulled back in a braid, eyes that looked sharp even in the harsh light. "And someone who knows what's hunting you." "I work alone." "I know. That's why you're losing." She moved closer, hands visible, empty. "My name is Elena. I'm a herbalist, like you. And I'm one of the last people on Earth whose mind Mirakiel hasn't touched. How do I know you're telling the truth?" She pulled something from her pocket. Even in the dim light, I recognized it immediately. A rosary identical to mine, wrapped around her wrist, the small compartment at the center glowing faintly with the same warm energy that protected my thoughts. The life plant. "Because I'm wearing the same armor you are," she said, "and because I know that if we don't work together, we're both going to die down here." I stared at her for a long moment. Every instinct screamed not to trust her, to turn around, to go alone. But she was right, I was losing. "Fine," I said. But if I even suspect you're lying, you'll kill me. I know. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Same goes for you. We started descending together into the darkness, neither of us speaking, both of us knowing that somewhere above us in the waking world, Mirakiel was watching and waiting. The cave didn't follow normal geology. The walls spiraled downward in patterns too deliberate for erosion. Dark stone shot through with veins that glittered like crushed glass, meteorite impact. Elena moved ahead, boots finding purchase on surfaces I would have slipped on. She climbed like someone who'd spent years in places like this. How long searching? She asked. Her voice echoed strangely. 8 years. You? 10. She chose left at a fork. Found reference in a journal from a botanist who disappeared in 1991. This was his last location. The air grew colder. My breath crystallized. The dripping water stopped. Silence pressed against my eardrums. Elena stopped. Listen. Nothing, not even our breathing carried. Dead zone, I said. We're close. We continued downward, the passage narrowing until we crawled on our bellies. The transport case scraped against my spine. I thought about Tyler, David, Rebecca. How many had Mirakiel touched? Why hasn't he gotten into your head? I asked. Elena pulled herself through a tight section. Because I don't have anyone left for him to use. Family, friends, all gone. I've been alone for 6 years. No leverage. I'm sorry. Don't be. It's why I'm free. She kept moving. Mirakiel feeds on connection, uses love as chains. You care about people. That's your weakness. Maybe she was right. 3 hours down, we found the symbols. Geometric patterns carved into walls. They hurt to look at, my eyes sliding off them. Elena traced one. Angelic script, pre-fall dialect. This says seal. This one, warning. Warning about what? Can't tell. She moved to a larger symbol. This is a name, Sar Adniel, the angel who created Arcanthus obscurantus. There's a theory, Elena said, that he's still here. Imprisoned, guarding the last specimens. A sound echoed from deeper in, something massive shifting. We both froze. Elena pulled out a vial glowing faint green. Blessed nightshade extract. Won't kill anything supernatural, but it'll slow it. The passage opened into a cavern so vast our lights couldn't reach the ceiling. Frost covered the floor. And in the center, growing from cracks in stone, were dozens of plants. Arcanthus obscurantus. Thriving, their translucent leaves shimmering with inner light. My God, Elena breathed. I moved closer. These were strong, some centuries old, root systems spreading like veins. We found them, I said. Yes. The voice came from behind. You did. We spun around. A man stood at the entrance, tall, handsome in a way that hurt to see. His smile was warm, kind, terrifying. Hello, old friend, Mirakiel said. I've been waiting. My hand went to the rosary. The life plant fragment burned hot against my skin. Mirakiel laughed. Beautiful, musical, wrong. Still clutching that talisman. Ice crept across the floor where he walked. 43 people I've touched in 3 months, all looking for you. 43. What do you want? I asked. These destroyed every last one. He gestured to the plants. They're the only thing that can reveal what I truly am. Strip away the illusion. You're a parasite. I'm a survivor. When the first rupture came, most of my brothers went mad. Humanity hunted them to extinction. He moved closer. But I was smarter. I hid. Adapted. Became exactly what humans wanted to see. Light, love, salvation. Worked perfectly for 3,000 years. Until Sar Adniel created this plant. Elena's hand tightened on the vial. So you sealed him. This is his prison. 2,000 years he's been down here guarding his creation. The shifting sound came from the darkness, closer. But seals weaken. But I need these plants gone. All of them. including the 3 you brought. I'll burn them first. Will you? He tilted his head. Even knowing what it cost you? Your brother, for instance. The world tilted. What are you talking about? The curse wasn't natural, it was mine, placed specifically to draw you out, make you desperate. His smile widened. The mixture you created didn't fail. It succeeded perfectly. Killed the curse so thoroughly it had nowhere to go except into your brother's body. I knew exactly what reaction you'd create. No. You wanted me to kill him. I wanted you broken, guilty, desperate. Marakiel's voice went soft. And it worked. You've been running ever since, becoming exactly the unstable hermit everyone would believe needed stopping. My brother's face flashed through my mind, the trust in his eyes as the poison spread. Jacob told you to run, Marakiel continued. He knew somewhere in his dying mind that you'd been used, that his death was bait. I couldn't breathe. Because you were the best herbalist of your generation, Marakiel said. The one most likely to find more specimens. I couldn't have you free and focused, so I broke you. Elena's grip tightened on my arm. He's lying. Am I? Ask him if the timing makes sense. If he's wondered why that particular curse, that particular moment when he was close to a breakthrough. The pieces fit. God help me. They fit perfectly. The shifting sound came again, this time unmistakable. Footsteps, huge, heavy. Marakiel's expression flickered, concern crossing his features. The guardian awakens. He looked back at us. Simple choice. Give me the plants. Help me destroy these. I'll leave you alive. Release everyone I've touched. And if we refuse? Elena asked. I kill you both. Take them anyway. Spend the next century destroying everyone you've ever cared about. The footsteps grew closer. Whatever made them was massive. Vibrations shook the floor. Elena and I exchanged a glance. She hurled the nightshade extract at Marakiel's face. He dodged, impossibly fast, but the vial shattered behind him. Extract splashed his shoulder and arm. Where it touched, skin smoked. The illusion peeled away, revealing something underneath like burned metal and frozen light. Marakiel screamed, glass breaking and metal tearing and ice cracking. Run, Elena shouted. We ran. Behind us, something emerged from the darkness. 15 feet tall, humanoid but wrong, body made of stone. Face smooth, featureless, empty. Sar Adniel. Or what was left of him. The guardian moved past Marakiel, focused entirely on us. Each step shook the cavern. Elena pulled me around a corner just as its hand smashed into the wall. Stone exploded. We ran through unmapped passages, trusting instinct. My pack slammed against my back. The transport case bounced against my spine. Jacob's death, Marakiel's confession, all of it swirled in my mind. No time to process, only time to survive. We lost the guardian in narrow passages where it couldn't follow. Sat in darkness for what felt like hours, listening to it smash walls trying to reach us. Eventually, the sounds faded. Elena was bleeding from her forehead. I had bruised ribs. We need to go back, I said. Are you insane? We need samples, living specimens. If Marakiel destroys everything, we need to save some. He'll kill us. He'll kill us anyway. I adjusted my pack. At least this way. We save the plants. Elena stared at me, then nodded. You're right. We retraced our steps carefully. The guardian was gone. Marakiel nowhere to be seen. The cavern was exactly as we'd left it. Plants swaying in unfelt breeze. I worked quickly, extracting 3 of the healthiest specimens, roots, soil, everything intact. Elena kept watch. How much time? She asked. 2 minutes. Make it 1. I transferred each plant into specialized containers. The specimens went into the transport case with my 3 from home. 6 plants total. Maybe enough to save the world from creatures like Marakiel. Done, I said. Good, because we have company. Marakiel stood at the entrance. His arm had healed. The illusion restored. He looked human again, perfect, furious. You couldn't leave well enough alone. His voice was ice. Had to be the hero. The Guardian emerged behind us, cutting off escape. Trapped. Marakiel raised his hand. Last chance, give me the case. I looked at Elena. She looked at the remaining plants around us. Light it, I said. What? The extract was flammable. Light the plants. Understanding flooded her face. If we couldn't save all the specimens, we could destroy them. Keep them from Marakiel. No! Marakiel lunged. Elena pulled out a second vial I hadn't seen her carrying. Threw it at the plants. I struck a magnesium flare, tossed it into the pooling liquid. Flames caught instantly. Green fire spread across the cavern, consuming the forgotten root in waves of emerald light. Marakiel's scream was inhuman. The Guardian roared, mountains grinding together. In the chaos, Elena grabbed my arm, pulled me toward a crack in the wall I hadn't noticed. We squeezed through, the transport case scraping stone. We ran through darkness, passages growing narrower, steeper. Climbing now instead of descending. Behind us, the cave shook as the Guardian tore through stone. But we were smaller, faster. We emerged 3 hours later, just as dawn broke. The forest looked unreal after so long in darkness. Air smelled impossibly sweet. Elena collapsed against a tree. I sank beside her, transport case clutched against my chest. We did it, she said. I opened the case carefully. All 6 specimens intact. Alive. They'd survived. What now? Elena asked. Now we find somewhere safe to cultivate these. Somewhere Marakiel can't reach. I looked at the rosary, then the plants. We grow enough that losing them all becomes impossible. And then we fight back. Figure out how to use these to expose every fallen angel hiding among humanity. Show the world what's really out there. Elena was quiet. Then, your brother. What Marakiel said was true. The words hurt. I've known on some level for years. I didn't want to admit it. I'm sorry. Me too. I closed the transport case, but Jacob told me to run, told me to escape. He knew there was something bigger at stake, so that's what I'm going to do. Finish what he died for. We sat in morning light, 2 herbalists with 6 impossible plants, hunted by a fallen angel who'd spent 3,000 years building his empire of lies. The odds weren't great, but at least we weren't alone anymore. And maybe that was enough. We drove for 3 days straight, switching off at gas stations, never stopping for more than 20 minutes. The transport case sat between us on the bench seat, its climate control humming softly. Inside 6 plants that could change everything, or end everything. Elena had contacts, other herbalists scattered across the country, people she'd worked with before her isolation. We needed a safe house, somewhere to cultivate the specimens, somewhere Marakiel couldn't find. But as we drove through the Midwest, watching farmland blur past the windows, I started noticing things. The man at the gas station in Ohio who stared too long. The waitress in Indiana who touched my shoulder and said I looked burdened. The hitchhiker outside Louisville who waved us down, smiling like he knew us. He's found us, I said. Elena's hands tightened on the wheel. Oh? How? I don't know. Maybe he's been tracking us since the cave. Maybe he can sense the plants. I watched the rearview mirror. No one following. Not visibly. Or maybe he doesn't need to follow. Maybe he's already everywhere. We abandoned the truck in Tennessee, bought a different vehicle with cash from a dealer who barely looked at us, kept moving. But the signs continued. More people, more dreams, more voices whispering that I should let go. Trust them, share my burden. Marakiel was tightening the net again. Elena's contact lived in the Appalachian foothills of North Carolina. A woman named Virginia, 70 years old, former botanist, now living off-grid in a house powered by solar panels and protected by wards I couldn't identify. She met us at the door with a shotgun. You brought trouble, she said. We brought salvation, Elena replied. Virginia looked at the transport case, then at us. Inside, quickly. The house smelled like dried herbs and old books. Every surface was covered with plants I recognized and dozens I didn't. Virginia led us to a basement greenhouse that ran the entire length of the property, at least 50 feet, filled with specimens that would make any herbalist weep. Show me, she said. I opened the case. The 6 plants looked fragile under the harsh LED grow lights, their translucent leaves trembling. Virginia went very still. When she spoke, her voice shook. I never thought I'd see these in my lifetime. Never thought any still existed. They almost didn't, I said. How many did you destroy? At least 40 specimens, maybe more. Good. She touched one of the leaves gently. Better they burn than fall into the wrong hands, but these we can work with. I can cultivate them, create hybrids, develop strains that grow faster, stronger. How long? Elena asked. 6 months to establish healthy clones. A year to have enough for distribution. 2 years to have a sustainable population. Virginia looked up at us. But you already know that's too long. Whatever's hunting you won't wait 2 years. No, I said, he won't. We stayed at Virginia's for 2 weeks. She worked with the plants while Elena and I fortified the property. More wards, motion sensors, cameras, things that would warn us if someone or something approached. But I knew it wouldn't be enough. Marakiel didn't need to approach. He worked through people, twisted their thoughts until they became his instruments. On the 14th night, I found Elena standing in the greenhouse, staring at the plants. Virginia had already established 2 successful clones. They were growing in separate pots, roots spreading. We can't stay here, Elena said without turning around. I know. He's getting closer. I can feel it. Like static in my head. Like he's pressing against the edges of my protection. I felt it too. The rosary around my neck had been burning warmer every day. The life plant fragment was working harder to keep Marakiel out. Virginia can continue the work, I said. We draw him away, lead him somewhere else. That's not a plan. That's suicide. You have a better idea? She turned to face me. In the purple grow lights, her expression looked haunted. We use the plants, now, before he gets stronger. They're not ready. Virginia said, I don't care what Virginia said. We have enough for an extraction. Enough to create a compound that could expose him. Show people what he really is. And how do we get close enough to use it? We don't. Elena's eyes were hard, determined. We make him come to us. The plan was simple, insane, probably fatal. But it was all we had. We would use ourselves as bait. Let Marakiel know exactly where we were. Draw him to a location of our choosing. Then expose him in front of as many people as possible. Show them the monster behind the mask. Virginia prepared the extraction from one of the plants. A concentrated solution of Arcanthus obscurantis, compounds that, when inhaled or absorbed through skin, would temporarily disrupt the angelic glamour. Strip away the illusion. It would last maybe 10 minutes, maybe less. But 10 minutes of truth might be enough. We chose a location, a megachurch outside Charlotte, 10,000 capacity. Services broadcast live online. Sunday morning, maximum attendance. Marakiel had been building his empire through faith, through worship, through people who saw him as light. We'd tear down that empire by showing them darkness. The church was enormous, glass and steel and soaring architecture designed to inspire awe. We arrived 3 hours before the service, blending in with the early volunteers. Elena had the extraction in a modified spray bottle. I had the remaining plants secured in a backpack. If this went wrong, I'd at least try to escape with them. The sanctuary filled slowly. Families, elderly couples, college students, thousands of people gathering to worship something they thought was God. I felt sick. He's here, Elena whispered. I didn't need to ask how she knew. I could feel it too, a pressure in the air like the moments before lightning strikes. The rosary burned hot against my skin. The lights dimmed, music swelled, and then he walked onto the stage. Not as Marakiel, not as the fallen angel, as Pastor Michael, beloved spiritual leader, man of God. He looked different than in the cave, younger, warmer, more human. The illusion was perfect. When he smiled, people in the audience wept. When he raised his hands, they raised theirs. He began to speak. His voice filled the sanctuary, rich and compelling, talking about love, about redemption, about trusting in a higher power. Every word was poison wrapped in honey. "How do we get close?" I asked. "We don't." Elena was already moving toward the sound booth. "We pump it through the ventilation." The church's HVAC system was industrial scale. If we could get the extraction into the air intake, it would spread through the entire building in minutes. We found the mechanical room behind the stage. The door was locked. Elena picked it in 30 seconds. Inside, massive air handlers hummed. Elena found the main intake duct, unscrewed the access panel, and emptied the entire bottle of extraction into the airflow. "How long?" I asked. 2 minutes, maybe 3. We returned to the sanctuary just as Pastor Michael was reaching the crescendo of his sermon. His words washed over the crowd like waves. People were crying, shouting. Some were on their knees. And then the air changed. A faint scent spread through the room, metallic and electric, like ozone after a storm. People started coughing, looking around, confused. Pastor Michael stopped mid-sentence. He knew. His eyes found mine across the crowd. In that moment, the mask slipped. Just for a second, I saw pure hatred burning behind the gentle facade. Then the transformation began. It started at his fingertips, the illusion of human flesh peeling away like old paint, revealing something underneath that looked like frozen light wrapped around burned metal. The effect spread up his arms across his chest to his face. People screamed. The cameras were still rolling. Tens of thousands watching online as their spiritual leader revealed his true form. Miracle stood at least 8 feet tall now. His body was wrong. Too many joints, angles that hurt to perceive. His face was beautiful and terrible, like looking at the sun through dark glass. Wings unfurled from his back, not feathered but made of something that rippled like oil on water. "This is what you wanted?" His voice was nothing human. It resonated in frequencies that made my bones ache. To show them truth, to strip away comfort and leave them with horror. People were fleeing now, trampling each other to reach the exits. But some stayed, frozen in terror or fascination. Elena stood beside me. "Now everyone knows what you are." "Do they?" Miracle laughed. The sound shattered windows. "They'll rationalize it, call it special effects, mass hallucination. Anything but the truth." His eyes fixed on me. Humans are very good at lying to themselves. It's what makes them so easy to control. He stepped down from the stage. Each footstep cracked the floor. People scattered before him like leaves before wind. "You've inconvenienced me. Nothing more. I'll have to move operations, find a new face, build a new following, but I've done it before. I'll do it again." He was 20 feet away now, 15. "But you won't live to see it." I reached for the rosary around my neck. Miracle moved faster than thought. His hand closed around my throat, lifting me off the ground. The rosary burned white hot, but it wasn't enough. He was too strong, too old, too far beyond human concepts of power. "I could have let you live," he said softly, "if you'd just given me the plants in the cave. If you'd just accepted the mercy I offered. But you had to be stubborn, had to be the hero." My vision was darkening. I could hear Elena screaming, could hear the backpack with the remaining plants hitting the ground as I dropped it. Miracle's grip tightened, and then he stopped. His eyes widened. His hand opened. I fell, gasping, clutching my throat. He was staring at something behind me. I turned. Virginia stood in the center aisle. She looked small, fragile, nothing compared to the angel. But in her hands she held something that glowed with soft green light. Another plant, larger than the ones we'd brought. Older. "Where did you—" Marakiel's voice was raw. You're not the only one who's been searching for 3,000 years. Virginia's voice was steady, strong. You're not the only one who knows secrets. She crushed the plant in her hands. The light intensified, spreading through the sanctuary like fog. Marakiel screamed. The sound was agony made audible. Where the light touched him, his form began to dissolve. Not just the illusion, the actual substance of him. Whatever he was made of couldn't withstand direct exposure to the concentrated essence of Arcanthus obscurantis. This isn't possible, he gasped. That strain is extinct. Tsar Adniel destroyed it himself. Told me he destroyed it. He lied. Virginia stepped closer. The same way you've been lying for 3,000 years. The same way all your kind lie. The green light was consuming him now, eating through his form like acid. He tried to move, to escape, but the light followed, clung to him. I am eternal, he said. But his voice was fading. I am... The light flared once, brilliant and final, and then Marakiel was gone. Not dead. I knew somehow that things like him couldn't truly die, but scattered, dispersed, reduced to fragments that would take centuries to reform. The sanctuary was silent except for the sound of my breathing. Virginia lowered her hands. The plant was gone, burned to ash in the casting. She looked at me with eyes that were older than her face suggested. Who are you? I asked. Someone who's been waiting a very long time for helpers. She glanced at the backpack with the remaining plants. Someone who's been cultivating Arcanthus obscurantis in secret for 40 years, ever since I found a single specimen growing in a cave in Montana. Elena helped me to my feet. You had plants all along? Not enough. Never enough to risk using them. Virginia smiled tiredly. But now we have enough to start. Enough to build a real defense. Enough to find the others like him and show the world what's been hiding in plain sight. I picked up the backpack. The plants inside were still alive, still growing. The others? I said. Marakiel wasn't the only fallen angel who survived. Virginia turned toward the exit. Emergency vehicles were arriving outside. There are at least 6 more that I know of, maybe more, all of them building empires, all of them feeding on human faith and fear. And we're going to expose them, Elena said, not a question. We're going to try. Virginia started walking. But first, we need to get out of here before the authorities arrive with questions we can't answer. We fled through the back exit as police and paramedics flooded the building. Behind us, the broadcast was still streaming. Millions of people had just watched something impossible. Some would deny it, call it fake, refuse to believe. But others would remember, would question, would start looking for truth in the places they'd been told not to look. And that was enough. For now. We drove through the night, heading west. Virginia knew other safe houses, other herbalists, a whole network of people who'd been fighting this war in secret for generations. I sat in the back seat, the transport case beside me. 6 plants that had survived a fallen angel's wrath. 6 plants that represented hope. My brother's face flashed through my mind, the trust in his eyes as he died. I'm sorry it took so long, I whispered. I'm sorry I didn't understand, but I'm going to finish this. I'm going to make sure your death meant something. Elena glanced back at me. You okay? No. I touched the rosary around my neck. The life plant fragment was cool now, its energy depleted from fighting Marakiel's influence for so long. But I will be. How long do we have? I asked Virginia. Before Marakiel reforms? Decades, maybe a century. She kept her eyes on the road. But the others won't wait. They'll have felt his dispersal. They'll know we have weapons that can hurt them. Good, I said. Let them know. Let them be afraid for once. We drove through the darkness, 3 herbalists carrying impossible plants, being hunted by fallen angels who'd spent millennia hiding. The war was just beginning. But for the first time since Jacob died, I felt something other than guilt. I felt purpose. The rosary around my neck pulsed once. Faint, weak, but still alive. The life plant fragment was damaged, maybe dying. I'd need to replace it soon or lose the protection that kept me young, kept me strong. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Tonight, we'd survived. Tonight, we'd won. And tomorrow, we'd keep fighting. Because that's what herbalists do. We walk in places no one else can go. We find plants that shouldn't exist. We fight monsters that hide in the light. And we never, ever stop. 3 months later, I stood in Virginia's greenhouse watching the first generation of cultivated Arcanthus obscurantis reach maturity. Dozens of plants now, all healthy, all strong. Elena was coordinating with other herbalists across the country, building a network, sharing knowledge, preparing for the next confrontation. Virginia was analyzing the genetic structure of the plants, trying to understand why some strains were more potent than others. And I was training, learning to use the plants as weapons, as tools, as the last defense against creatures that had been preying on humanity since before recorded history. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number, just 3 words. Found another one. I looked at the plants, at the future we were building. Then I grabbed my pack and headed for the door. The war was just beginning, but we were ready.